Hello, welcome to the Utah Puck Report. I'm your host, your hockey friend, Jay Stevens. Here we are, episode 501, and it's amazing because we keep getting, like, Tyson, I got to tell you, like, I'm trying to play it cool, but I've been a fan of yours for a long time.
Really?
Like, I followed your career. I mean, I wasn't following your career, but you kept popping up, like Kamloops.
Right.
You're so successful in juniors, and your time with St. Louis, and then your time in Arizona. And I want to get to all of that.
Okay.
But our guest today, obviously, Tyson Nash from the Utah Hockey Club now. And Tyson, start us off. A lot of our audience is new. Like, I have the hockey audience.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And then, so I've got the diehards, and now I've got a lot of people that are, like, getting into it and starting to really like hockey.
Right.
So can you just give us a little bit of your background?
Well, I obviously grew up playing hockey. Lucky enough to live every hockey player's dream, right? Which is playing in the National Hockey League. Very blessed. Wasn't very skilled, wasn't very talented, but I found a way somehow. I found a way to.
Yeah, most not talented people find a way to get in the NHL.
Yeah. So it was a dream come true. I've been playing hockey since I was 5 years old. I grew up in a small little town outside of Edmonton called Sherwood Park.
Oh, yeah.
Not much else to do really in the winter besides playing hockey, outdoor rinks on the ponds. It's kind of where it all started for me, right? That's where I learned to play. Grew up watching, the legends of the Edmonton Oilers was my favorite team. My dad worked for CN Rail. And one of the perks of the company was getting season tickets. So he brought me or my brother, we alternated. So I saw Wayne Gretzky in his heyday, Mark Messier, Yari Curry, Paul Coffey, like some of the best to ever lace them up.
Grant Fuhr,
who actually ended up being my first NHL goaltender in St. Louis with the Blues. So imagine that.
Yeah.
Grant Fuhr, that mask, he was a legend. He was every kid's hero, obviously, watching the Oilers growing up. So went off when I was 15 to play junior hockey for the Kamloops Blazers. We had one heck of a team. My goodness. I was, again, very blessed to play with some really good players. Got drafted, which is another dream come true for every kid, even though I was one of the last picks in the draft, which was, good and bad, kind of fuel for the fire,
Yeah.
But the Vancouver Canucks, they took a chance on me, and very thankful.
That's amazing. I've got a Grant Fuhr story for you too. This is kind of funny because the first hockey game I ever watched, the first NHL game I ever watched, was Edmonton versus Philadelphia.
Okay.
And it was Hextall versus Fuhr, and I'm like, I want to be a goalie. And I'm older, so like, I didn't get into hockey till I was late, like 14, 15, 16, right? So I'm watching these guys play, and so those were my idols. Those were my first people I really looked up to. And then fast forward to, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, I'm e-bugging for the Utah Grizzlies in the American Hockey League.
Oh, no way. Emergency goalie?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I should be getting your autograph.
Oh, right, yeah.
So cool.
Oh, man, I've got dozens of minutes played.
Yeah.
But so I'm e-bugging in a practice for Mike Smith, who's injured that day.
Yeah.
When they were the Arizona Coyotes farm club.
Right.
And I see a goalie coach get on the ice, and I'm looking at him, and he's over working with I can't remember who the other draft pick was at the time, but he's talking to the other goalies, and then he comes over to me, and it's Grant Fuhr. And so there I'm standing, and as shots are coming in, he gets behind me as people are actively shooting, and he's just in a tracksuit, and he's pushing me further out. He's like, "You got to challenge more." And I'm like, I just turned to one point. I'm like, I'm 40 something years old.
You're like, I just don't want it to hurt.
I'm not going to get any better. Like, you should just stay over there. But I mean, just the honor to be on the ice was such a legend. Yeah. It was just amazing to me.
He was critiquing your form.
Yeah. And I was telling him, I'm like, but if I go clear out here, I got to go clear back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a lot of energy.
This guy is an absolute legend.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I played with him, so I have a relationship with him. But you're like, when he's one of your idols, right?
Yeah.
And you grow up, but then you actually get to meet one of your idols,
Yep.
and they're good humans. Like, they're unreal dudes. Like, it's just that much better of an experience, right? And he was a beauty. What a goaltender. I kind of got him at the end of his career, but oh man, he was just legendary.
Yeah, man, I just worshipped that guy. And Hextall, completely different style goaltenders.
Yeah.
So I tried to be a like Grant Fuhr, but I like to hack everybody like Hextall when I was playing.
Oh yeah.
So fast forward a little bit, and forgive me if you've already talked about this a lot, and I know we're midway through the season, But as a former Coyote, you've watched kind of the turmoil. But like, I was a Coyotes fan too, and my son played in the Sonoran League.
Okay.
So we were at a lot of Coyotes games. His first ever NHL game was a Coyotes, I think Edmonton. No, it was Detroit. That is my son. My producer's my son.
Oh, okay.
And so he was playing in those games, and so I took him to Coyotes games. We go to Coyotes games all the time, and I was a big fan, and I saw the fan base there. I saw how deeply rooted those fans loved that team, and I got to be there from the beginning when the team got there from Winnipeg. So as a player, as a fan, you see the turmoil that's going on. What's going through your head when the rumors start going? Because there was always rumors, right?
I mean, when wasn't there rumors, right? I mean, literally, I got traded there from St. Louis Blues back in 2002, I believe. And even as a player, like, you know, we were in pretty good hands then because we played in the old rink, a similar rink to Delta Center. Where it had, you know, obstructed views on the one side.
Those are the seats I always got.
Yeah, so you guys
I can afford those.
But it was brilliant because they used those seats as like, you know, like they call it like the wolf pack or something, right? Like, and it was kind of a big thing, and they're discounted tickets, and it was the diehard fans that would show up in that section, right? Drinking beers, having a good time, all that stuff. And then when we moved out to Glendale, when the new rink was built, I mean, this place was in the middle of nowhere, right? I mean, it was literally in the middle of a farmer's field. And I know the city ate some of the cost and built the rink and paid for it and all that stuff, but it also cost them in the end, right? It's all about location. I don't care what industry, what business you're in. You put something in the wrong location and it will kill you. And ultimately, that's what happened, sadly. We did have a great fan base. They are very passionate about hockey in the desert. And I think one day they will get a team back because it's one of the best cities in America.
Yeah, truly is.
8 million people there. The sun shines. I mean, every player in the world, they go there for either All-Star break or Olympic break or any break that they have. They're going to Arizona.
Go find the sun, find the golf.
So imagine if you could play, you know, with a great owner. And that's been the difference for me is that, you know, Ryan and Ashley, the ownership group, I mean, is second to none. And that's ultimately the foundation, right? That's your leadership group. You know, and this Utah team has never been in better hands. And that was kind of an issue in Arizona. It was, you know, ownership issue after ownership issue after mistake after mistake.
Yeah, it seemed like it was. Is it kind of bittersweet though? Or do you just hold out that hope that, hey, Arizona's going to get a team again? Because it's part of your legacy, right? That's part of where you were.
Yeah, I mean, I am so super happy, right? For everyone in Utah, the state, the city, Ryan and Ashley, the entire thing, because they deserve a team here. And hockey belongs in Utah.
It really does.
And people don't really realize, and they're like, they don't give Utah enough credit that they're like, oh, it's new in Utah. I'm like, it's not new in Utah. Like, hockey's been here for a long time. Like
50 plus years.
Yes, right. I mean, you've had our farm team was here for years in Arizona. The Grizzlies, I mean, the names that I go through, now I have a show, so I'm doing all the research like you do. Like, this guy played in Salt Lake. This guy played in Salt Lake. I talked to Stu Grimson the other day.
Yeah.
He's like, I was kind of a legend in Salt Lake.
Yeah, I was.
I was the town tough guy.
I've got his Salt Lake Golden Eagle card.
He's
him and Theron Fleury.
To come back, please invite me back to the show, but I want to do it in person because I want to see the city. I want to see how it's grown and all my old fans. And I'm like, absolutely. So, you know, as I was there in Arizona, I saw that team for 23 years. The team was there for 28. And as players, as media, I put a lot of time into the grassroots, right? Learn to play. Building relationships and, you know, to see that all being ripped up and have the team move was it was gut wrenching. It was hard to see, but you also realize that these players, you're playing in the mullet. What did you think that was going to happen?
Right.
I mean, it's a 6,000 seat arena. I mean, you play your whole life. It's your dream to play in a building like the Delta Center where there's 18,000 people screaming their heads off. You know, that's the dream. Not 6,000 people.
And it's funny because talking to Josh Doan about it too, right? Like, all right, you grow up in Arizona, you play at Arizona State, you play in that building that sells out for college, and then the next year you're playing your NHL game there, and there are seats available.
Yeah.
And
Talk
that's
about anticlimactic, right?
yeah,
It's like, wait a minute.
that is tough.
Yeah,
That is tough.
it was. And yeah, that's a great story for Josh. I mean, his dream was, I mean, he literally grew up in Glendale
Yeah.
in the locker room, walking around. Shane used to bring him to literally almost every practice, you know, and he'd skate after with his dad. And,
Oh, so
you
cool.
know, like imagine growing up like that. So the team is where it should be right now. Absolutely. I know the players. I mean, this place is unbelievable. The scene, the scenic, the mountains.
Did you
all of it.
expect that? Coming
No.
in, what kind of expectations did you have for Utah?
I've driven through here probably 25 times
Yeah.
on my way from Canada to Phoenix. Come right through Salt Lake, and I literally, this is a spot I would stay, you know, on every trip, right? Because it's kind of the halfway point. And you're always looking around, you're going, this is absolutely stunning. This is beautiful.
No.
But now that I'm really spending time here, like I've been up at Park City every chance I can get.
Yeah.
Deer Valley, I cannot wait to ski. And then you can come down and watch a hockey game. You can come for the players. You know, you can go up to Park City after playing a game.
Are you going to be in town next week for the Sundance
No.
Film Festival?
No, I'm not.
Oh man, because it is epic.
Yeah.
It is so much fun. It's so cool. So were you here for game one?
Rookie mistake. I gotta turn my phone off.
Oh, you're totally fine. So it's a very laid back podcast.
Yeah.
Were you here for game one?
I was not.
Were you here for the? You were here for the
shortly
introductions, though, right?
I was shortly after. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you walked in here and you saw this building, you're like, okay, there are some bad seats, but a lot of buildings have bad seats. But then you hear the crowd, you see the fans. Were you like, I didn't expect this, or were you like, yeah, this is the NHL. You should expect it.
I was blown away. I mean, just because of where we came from,
Yeah.
right? And then you come back into an NHL city, right? An NHL building, right? You're like, this is so freaking cool. This is what it's about. And even the players, like, and there's no stone unturned. Everything has been like beyond first class here. That's how Ryan and Ashley run, right? That locker room is ridiculous.
It is so nice.
It is, everything they touch is gold.
Yeah.
But the players are walking around, they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. But like, we're all like, well, yeah, but this is the NHL. This is what everyone
I guess you shouldn't be surprised.
You haven't had it for 2 or 3 years or longer.
Sad, yeah.
And it's really sad, right? And it hits home. And again, that's the point for me that I'm like, I get it. That's why the team, that's why Gary Bettman had seen enough and had to move the team.
Yeah, it makes sense. And you know, the cool thing for me is I went around and all the media and even Ryan and Ashley, when I was talking to them, even last week, Ashley's blown away by how amazing the players are and how accessible they are to the public and to the media. And that's what I went around and told the media. I said, hey, you're gonna be shocked because it's not the NFL and it's not the NBA. And these players are going to walk in and they're just going to be good to talk to. They're going to have fun. The other players kind of have to isolate themselves, but the NHL just does the opposite.
Yeah.
I think they're in your face so much that they don't have to worry about getting like overran at a crowd because they're constantly in the crowd.
Right.
And they're constantly doing public service. And I've heard, I know Ian Cole's done some stuff on the side too. And I think the people are kind of blown away. And that was what I kept telling the media. Have you had a lot of interaction with the fans here?
Yeah, what I can't believe is like how noticeable I've become.
Oh yeah.
Like, I guess when you're on TV and stuff, and I haven't been on a ton, but people, that's how engaged the fan base is in this team. And I've recognized that from day one. Literally, I did one show and I'm walking around the concourse and people are like, hey, can I get your autograph? It's so great to have you in town. Oh, this is awesome. Love what you do. That was so funny what you said. I'm like, holy cow, these guys are like listening and they are diehard. If they're watching me on my show, they are diehard.
Well, it's funny because I even get it to a much, much smaller degree.
Yeah.
But walking around because everybody just wants every bit of information. They're so in love with the team.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about what you do for the team now.
Well, I'm kind of like a Swiss Army knife. I kind of do a little bit of everything. I maybe ambassador, is kind of like, like trying to get.
Never heard that title before. I like it.
Like kind of like just getting hockey out into, into the valley and, like getting kids involved. I want to be involved in learn to play, like teaching kids, street hockey, like all these super cool events, right? And that's where it ultimately starts. And that's where Ryan and Ashley are That's their biggest thing, right? And when we talk to them, we're like, what is it? Is it merchandise? Is it, butts in the seats? Is it season tickets? Is it suites? They're like, no, it's learn to play.
Yeah.
Like, we want kids. That's because that's where it starts. That's where it started for me. It's where it started for you.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's where I fell in love when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, going to my first hockey game, watching it on TV, meeting my heroes, right? Getting an autograph. That's where it starts. And that's all of a sudden where now the little kid is pulling on dad's arm going, hey, can we go to a hockey game one day? Can I get one of those sweatshirts? Can I get a jersey like Dylan Gunther? That's where it all starts. And that's how you build a fan base that's going to stick around for a long time.
You've heard him talk about, hey, we have 70,000 junior Jazz players.
Yeah.
We want 70,000 junior. Are we going to say Yeti? No. I like to throw some.
I'm not touching that.
I like to throw something out every episode just so I can get all the mail. Yeah. But yeah, junior Utah Hockey Club player.
Yeah.
70,000.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah. It can happen. It can happen. I mean, you see how passionate everyone is, and it's just going to get bigger as the team grows as well, too, right? When the product on the ice gets better, and I think they've taken a little bit of a step this year, and then a step back.
A couple injuries, yeah.
And then hopefully another step towards the end of the year, and that's going to build your fan base. That's going to get people more engaged, because ultimately people do want to watch a winner, right?
Yeah.
And I think
the Montreal game was the first game we actually saw. Like, I know fans were frustrated, and again, I don't know why I read comments on anything I post, but we get
dangerous.
And I'll get in arguments with some people, and they're like, "We need to fire Torini." I'm like, "You have no idea what you're talking about. Like, you don't get a seed. Like, we have all these amazing seeds. Yeah. We planted this amazing garden, and it's gonna grow. Yeah. Right." Yeah. And we brought in a master gardener to help grow that garden.
Yeah. Oh, I like stealing that analogy.
Just because it took me a long time to come up with that. I kept thinking of different ones. I think my wife might have come up with it, but I'm going to take credit for it. But anyway, so the other night was the first night I really heard frustration coming out of the crowd because we had that game, but we finally get Marino back. Jersey's just a little bit out. And when you get Sergachev and you get, when they got Marino, but I thought the signing of Ian Cole, like I've known Ian Cole for a long time. I was an equipment rep before. He used the gear because I worked for Innovative way back in the day and Warrior. Yeah, I know you did actually. Actually, you used one of them. I repped a lot, but so when you see that signing and then you see how important Cole has become, and you see that part of it, do you start getting a little bit more excited? Like, hey, once we actually have our ideal starting night roster out there with all those players, do you think this team makes the playoffs?
I think I pray they play meaningful games this year. I mean, it's going to be tough. It has been tough. Yeah. You deal with injuries like that to key players, like on your back end. Defense is everything, right? Goaltender defense is everything in the National Hockey League. If you don't have it, you got nothing. You got no hope. You can put a Band-Aid on things for a while, but eventually it starts to seep, right? And I think that's kind of where we're at right now is a lot of guys have been overused, overplayed. Yeah. That injury to Sean Durzi was so crucial, was so bad. And then you throw in Marino on top of that, right? Yep. But I think everyone together, to your point, next year, I'm really thinking that playoffs is a massive
not a wild card, but
a massive possibility.
Yeah.
Everyone's a year older. Logan Cooley, Clayton Keller another year on, with the captaincy, the C on his jersey. Dylan Gunther is,
amazing.
You guys have seen a snippet of it, how good these kids are. And that's what I get excited about is what they have coming up in the pipeline. Josh Doan, all that stuff. I never answered your question about my show.
Yeah. Let's get to that. I want to hear more about that.
So my show, and we're gonna have players on. We're having Dylan Gunther on tonight.
Okay.
Which is the game against the Rangers. I don't know when this is gonna air.
So, this airs tomorrow, but that's fine.
So Dylan Gunther is gonna be coming on the show. We're gonna do a lot of that throughout the season.
Cool.
Get the fans an opportunity to meet the players, right? Yeah. To hear stories, like deep dives into their childhood, where they learned to play, most importantly. And that's what it's kind of like the Pat McAfee, Peyton Manning cast. Yeah. It's called the NashCast. So you guys got to tune in. It's a ton of fun. They always want us as media and broadcasters to tell stories. Well, you can't tell a story on a broadcast because there's no time.
Yeah, they give
it happens so
you got
fast.
45 seconds
Right.
to say,
You got
there's
10
no way.
seconds after a goal.
Yeah.
How can I tell a story? Well, Ryan and Ashley came up with the idea, and they're like, we want story time with Tyson. Basically, is what it's about, right? We want to hear all the stories. And I think it's absolutely genius for fans now to be able to have the old-fashioned broadcast, or they can switch to the NashCast and have an opportunity to watch, live stream the game. You can still watch it while you're listening to Hall of Famers, like superstar, current, former basketball, hockey, actors, singers. Like, I am going to have it all
Very cool
on the show. So it's super fun.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So, and where's that available? How do
So
that's on the app?
It is on the app. Yeah, it's SEG Plus, HC, all the stuff, right? All the outlets.
Okay.
You can find us front and center on the Utah Hockey Club app. It's a streaming service. I think it's cheap right now. I think they're pretty much just giving it away. Which,
get them addicted.
Yeah, get them addicted. Get them involved. Cool. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, I'm excited about it. I know you're a busy person, and I can't thank you enough for being on the show. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens tonight against the Rangers, and then the Blues coming to town.
Yeah. My old
your alma mater, I guess we could call it.
Yeah.
Do you ever have mixed emotions when you see the jersey you wore for so long playing against the jersey you're repping now?
When I was a player, it was really hard, right? The first time you play the Blues, right? I get traded to Arizona. All of a sudden, you're playing the Blues a few nights later. Actually, the home opener of our next season. I got traded at the draft, and our first game was against the St. Louis Blues. And I'll tell you what, it was the weirdest feeling because you're like, oh my God, that's a jersey I put on for the last 6 years, and now I'm on the other side, right?
Yeah.
But your new team, you get it acclimated real quick. And it's been no different for these guys coming from Arizona, coming to Utah, the players. And I'm telling you, they absolutely love it here. They love it.
That has been my experience with every player I've talked to. And of course, I'm the media, so they're going to say whatever, but you can tell. You can tell they love it. And, and I appreciate everything that you bring to the table. Like I said, I watched you as a player. I've listened to you as a broadcaster for a long time. I've always appreciated.
I'm best on mute.
No, it's good though, because it's good to get a player perspective, and I think it's so important sometimes, and I think that gets missed in a lot of other broadcasts. So it's great to have it.
That's why you like the NFL, right? The NBA. You turn on the TV and you're like, holy cow! Like, I'm listening to like some Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Like, it's unbelievable. It's got to be entertaining. Got to have fun doing what we do. Right?
Yeah,
that's what
absolutely.
the fans want.
That's absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny too, because Biz is kind of breaking down some barriers, right?
It's like the Howard Stern of hockey.
And so it makes it so that you can have a better conversation. Like, listening to him and Wayne Gretzky break down, and I watched him last night. Gretzky at one point says, "Oh, it's too bad that they started taking penalties because they had such a good period, and now it's going to be tied by the end of the period." And
it was right.
Then he nailed it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man. And I had the honor one time. I watched some prep school games, and I sat next to JP Parisi, and I listened to him break down hockey, and I go, I don't see any of it.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I thought I was a scholar of hockey.
Yeah.
It's my religion.
Yeah.
And to sit down with somebody like that, and somebody that grew up playing the game, and that's why I think Olchuk's such a great fit too.
Yeah.
Is because when it's in your DNA, you just see it differently.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I think that's what you bring, and that's why I think your podcast is going to be super exciting too. So I'm pumped to watch it.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I used to always say, like, I've been on 1,000 flights, but it doesn't mean I can land the plane, right?
Right.
And it's different when you get a perspective, because I always say to people who think they know hockey and all this stuff, and they're critiquing it and they're doing this, I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand.
No.
I go, you don't know what it's like, because we can fight. And fighting was the scariest thing and the hardest thing for me to overcome, because I wasn't a great fighter, but because you could fight and you have to be accountable.
Yeah.
So now you played hockey before maybe, but you played the NHL. Have you stood on the blue line during the national anthem when Bob Probert's on the other side, when Joey Koser's on the other side, when Darren McCarty, Matthew Barnaby, Theo Fleury, have you played against those players? Every second night you're playing against the best players in the world.
Yeah.
Right? You can't take a night off. You're scared to death every time you lace up the skates. Or the night before, you're trying to sleep, knowing that you were an idiot the game before And Darren
Somebody's gonna hold
McCarty
you
wants to
accountable.
rip your head off, in the next night, and it's coming, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you have to deal with, the emotions of it, which is very difficult. But that's why a player's perspective, I think, is so important.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And we'll find that on SEG Plus.
Yes.
I think we make a push for the playoffs.
With you.
I think within the next couple of weeks we get our guys back. I think the St. Louis Blues become our rival. I think the Calgary Flames become our rival because we're going to be fighting for that
We got
wild
to take
card spot.
the Flames are going down. That's who we got to chase.
One more question before. Do you think we make a move at the deadline?
I think it all dictates on what happens in the next 2.5, 3 weeks.
We're deep on prospects.
Yeah.
Too many to sign.
Yeah.
A lot of other teams got to be looking at it like, hey,
1,000%.
look at that shopping cart over there. It's full.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ours only has one in it, but we could give.
But I think it'll be difficult. And I think that's what I was talking to a good friend of mine who's one of the head scouts for the Dallas Stars. And he said, we're waiting on all the teams. Everyone's in it right now.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks they may have a chance, right? Where last year, there was teams that were out of it after November.
Yeah.
Right? So you're like, fire sale.
Statistically, that's what it is. Like by Christmas, where you're at.
Yeah.
And the West is so crazy this year.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it'll be a couple weeks for sure. So hopefully Utah can, get some points under their belts and make a push and meaningful games. That's the key, right? For these young players to learn what it takes. Because right now is the dog days of the National Hockey League. Anyone can have a great start, right? Or a great finish, but it's the grind. It's the in-between that you have to get to. It's like redlining. It's like the fitness test. They get you to, the redlining. The RPMs are high. Who can stay there? If me and you are running on a bike or on the ice and we're redlining, who can stay at that level the longest is the team that makes the playoffs.
So is that going to be youth or is that going to be experience?
I think it's a combo.
Yeah.
I think it's a combo. And a lot of time it's experience.
Man, I can just keep
the old guys.
I have like
You're
10
a
more.
firefighter,
I do know.
You guys, you may not have the quickness or the strength anymore, but you have it up here, right? And here.
Yeah.
And you know what it takes.
Yeah. So. It's true. I have a million more questions. I'd love to break down the game with you some other time during the season.
Anytime, have me on.
All right.
Yeah.
Tyson Nash, NHL legend. Former Coyote. So I think it's important to have you here, and we've just loved having you here.
Yeah, thank you.
That is the Utah Puck Report.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Utah Puck Report. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Rate us, leave us feedback, let us know what you want us to do better. Big thanks to our sponsors, Only Crowns. Love having a dentist sponsor for the hockey podcast. Check them out at onlycrowns.com. Thanks to KSL Sports, the Utah Hockey Club, Madison Miller, and Tegan Stevens for producing. And thanks to the American Hitmen for that awesome intro song. We'll see you next week.